This is episode 103 of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with Cindy from the Agnostics and Others group in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Cindy recently created a website called Voices in Recovery, where she hopes to capture audio recordings of recovery speakers, focusing primarily on those whose voices are not often heard. We'll talk about this project and how it came to be, and also a little bit about her group in Fayetteville. Hey Cindy, how you doing? Thanks for joining me here on the podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it was really nice to get your email letting us know about this project that you're undertaking, Voices in Recovery. And I thought it was a really great idea. You want to just jump into it and explain what the project is and what inspired you to get involved with it?
The idea behind it is to create a sort of online library where people can find, I know they're not speaker tapes, but that's kind of what I know them as, speaker tapes, like you would with, like when people share their story and it's recorded and you can go on YouTube or there's apps on your phone and you can listen to them. I wanted to create a place that was convenient to find these shares that sort of highlight voices that aren't really heard. I got sober through AA and I stopped going to meetings for about a year. And a couple of months into not going to meetings, I really started to miss the connection that I felt when I was going. And so I started listening to speakers on YouTube. And after a while, I realized that I couldn't find any speakers that were atheist or agnostic or quote unquote the minority, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how this project came about, is I wanted to create a place where these voices could be found easier.
Is the idea for like people to record their story and then like email it to you or
yes.
Okay.
They can record the story and email it, or some people, if they don't for whatever reason want to record it or are unfamiliar with how to do that, if they want to type it, I could post it for people to read, I suppose. But yes, they can send it that way, or they can contact if they have any questions, and I'll try to help in any way that I can.
Well, I think it's a great idea. And would you also put them on YouTube? Because that's not that difficult to do either. If you'd like to do that, I could help you if you were interested in doing that.
Okay, I really, I would be open to that. Mm-hmm. I really didn't know what was going to happen with this. I mean, a big part of me sort of thought nothing would happen with it, honestly. It happened in a moment of anger.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do something because I helped co-found a group here where I live called Agnostics and Others. It's an AA group.
In Fayetteville,
and
right? North Carolina.
In Fayetteville, North Carolina. And when we started the group, I feel like a bit naive because I thought, oh, here's this community. We're all for love and we're all just, here for each other. And there were a lot of people who were against the group. I was really shocked. Mm-hmm. I was shocked, honestly. And that's why I stopped going to AA for so long. And then this was 4 years ago. And then about 6 months ago, it came up again where some groups in the area were trying to get us off the meeting schedule.
Wow.
and trying to, just ridiculous stuff. Yeah. And I was angry. I got angry that this was still happening. So I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something because it's not healthy for me to sit in that emotion. So I was like, what can I do? And then the idea to start this website just popped in my head. Because up until then, I was still listening to speaker tapes and I was still looking for, any other voice besides. And what you find on the internet and on apps, they're great shares. I do get a lot out of them. I'm not trying to downplay those or anything. There are other voices too out there.
Yeah, and it's important for them to be heard. When people do hear, it's really powerful to hear someone tell your own story and from your perspective. So, that's what I found from the podcast too, is that people are like, wow, I've never heard, an atheist share their story before, and, it really is meaningful. I'm just kind of curious, did any of those people that were trying to get your group off the meeting list, did they give any reasons for that action, and whatever happened? How did your intergroup or central office react to that?
Well, they actually had sent people to our meeting, and we went to I was not at the intergroup meeting. One of the people that co-founded the Agnostics and Others group here, he was the treasurer for the intergroup, and he went to one of the meetings, and people had come from another group and brought some paper that somebody had brought to the meeting, to the agnostics meeting, and shared or something, and said that this is an outside issue. You can't talk about this in a meeting. They are not a real AA group. And it was the 12 steps, but it was written differently. And it was somebody's share, and they were like, they're using this in a meeting, and we were like, you know, and the guy who was the treasurer, of course, was very upset. I would have been upset as well. But and they were saying that we were violating the traditions because we were not using conference-approved literature, which is not true.
Yeah.
And they were saying that we were affiliated because somebody came and shared that this was something that they found helpful to them.
Right.
That we were affiliated with an outside, I forget the term now, but that's how it started this last time. But ever since we started the group, there's been people who just don't like us.
Yeah, isn't that something?
It's like, I mean, when we started this group, I was so excited. I thought there was going to be this like great support, and we do have a lot of support. I don't want to make it sound like everybody. We do have a lot of support.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at how much hate. I was surprised, and then my little naive bubble was like popped. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know exactly, though. I live in the same bubble, and every once in a while I see, oh, there are people out there that really aren't crazy about us, and I see it every once in a while. I haven't experienced it too much here where I live, but I have seen it in other places, and like what you experienced is really similar to what my friend Doris's group went through when their district actually took them off of their district meeting list and accused them of having outside affiliations and all this other stuff. And it was like, ultimately, it was like they were just trying to find reasons because it was basically just prejudice. And I think that's probably the same thing in your situation. So what happened? Did the intergroup just say, did the central office just say no, or?
Well, no. The last intergroup meeting, the group was on the agenda again. And the treasurer asked them, is this done? I thought this was because they had voted at the one where the other groups had come and were saying, you know, if you don't get them off the meeting, we're not going to support you. We're not going to send money to the intergroup anymore.
Wow.
You know, there was a lot of discussion that the majority of the people in the room disagreed with that. They were like, you know, you can't do that. You know, ridiculous. And they voted to not remove us from the schedule.
Good.
And then the next meeting that they had, we were brought up again. The group was brought up again, and the treasurer asked, you know, is this going to continue, or are you going to, you know, we thought, or is it done? And they said that it was not done. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. As of right now, we're still on the meeting schedule, but I'm not really angry about the situation anymore. I've just sort of accepted that it is what it is. And if they do get us off the meeting schedule, we're still going to be a group, and we're still going to do what we do. But it's unfortunate because there's, you know, I just think about when I first got sober, clean and sober. If I had come to a meeting and there had been this sort of negativity, I wouldn't have gone back and I would be dead. And so I think, you know, how many people are not coming back? Like, I feel like that's, I don't know. I feel like that's being forgotten. I mean, I don't have like 100 years sobriety or anything, but I don't know.
Well, these intergroups, they're
people.
They're these intergroups can be kind of dysfunctional sometimes because they're not really part of the AA service structure. They're not really well informed of the concepts of service and how, you know, AA operates, and they don't seem to have respect for minority opinion. And, you know, first of all, everything that they're doing here is totally wrong. Even if your group was breaking traditions, there's no punishment that can be inflicted on you for doing that. It's not like AA has laws and rules that if we break them, we can't participate with the rest of the AA community or whatever. They're just totally wrong on that. But you know, it's just ignorant people just displaying their prejudice. But it sounds like the majority of the people, at least, are are supporting you, and that's good. But it's too bad that you have to go through it. But I admire you for what you have done, is turn that energy around into something positive, and this will be that, because I know that people will. It might take a little while, but people will learn about your site, Voices in Recovery, and it will get attention. And the more material that you put up there, the more that it will be found. You could even put something up there about your group as well, and help people find your group. Probably don't even need to be listed on the central office website. But and I think it's also nice that you're not specifically, this isn't an AA site that you're creating, so you're not going to really be focusing on specifically alcoholism, but you're welcoming contributions from people who are recovering from any addiction.
Yes. I am an alcoholic, and I am an addict, and I'm also bulimic. I used alcohol, drugs, and food were my biggest vices. And I remember being early in recovery, and somebody told me I couldn't talk about drugs. They're like, no, you can't identify as that. And I was I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. And, but you're new. I'm new, you just, and I was terrified. So, but thankfully I had a sponsor who she didn't tell me that I couldn't talk about both. You know what I mean? She let me be me. And I remember being at a meeting one time. It was on the pamphlet, Substances Other Than Alcohol, I believe it's called. I might be wrong in quoting that pamphlet. And I was surprised at how many people agreed that you should only focus on alcohol. And, I think being the person that I am, and if you had it, I didn't care what it was, I wanted to abuse it to excess. Thankfully, I had a sponsor who let me talk about everything. Otherwise, I might... Because AA was the first place, I think, in my whole life that I really felt like, oh, I'm going to be okay. Like, I belong here. But I attribute a lot of that to having a sponsor who, she didn't tell me you can't be an addict as well.
Yeah.
And I was a few years into my recovery before I realized that food was an issue, because it was something that I my whole life had been an issue since I was in elementary school. But until I started going to therapy and exploring, working on other areas of my life, I was like, oh, this is also a problem for me. So it was something that I discovered later on after I had been clean and sober for a few years.
Yeah.
But yes, the site is for anybody. If they're an alcoholic, an addict, if they self-harm, if they, any addiction, any sort of recovery that they've gone through. Because I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I feel like recovery is recovery. If I'm recovering from alcohol or from drugs or food, the process for me has been the same.
That's right.
It's just the underlying issues that I was trying to not feel or control or whatever, they're basically the same. It's just the unhealthy outlet that I used were different. So again, I'm not a professional, but my experience has been that it didn't matter what I abused.
Yeah.
Kind of the underlying reason why I was doing it was the same. And the way that I treat it now and try to stay healthy mentally for all of those are the same.
Exactly.
And
I think there's some scientific evidence to support that. I'm like you, I'm no expert at all. I've read a couple of books and talked to some doctors and so forth, but basically, addiction is addictions, and it's basically from my understanding, it's a dopamine issue. It's what happens to your brain. There's a change in the brain that takes place, and it doesn't matter what substance you use that does that. It's the same dysfunction with the brain reacting to whatever that chemical influence is, and it can be a reaction from sugar, or it can be cocaine, or it could be marijuana or whatever. And the treatment for it is the same as well, and the recovery process is the same for all of those drugs. But what I always found funny, because we have that here every once in a while, somebody gets some group goes on this tirade about speaking about things other than alcohol. But the truth of the matter is, rarely in meetings do we ever speak about our use. It's usually about the recovery anyway. And most people, especially drug addicts, if they want to recover from drugs, they also they include alcohol in that. They say it might not have been my drug of choice, but for me to be clean, I should also abstain from alcohol. So they should be welcome to AA, and they should be able to speak about whatever they want to, in my opinion. But That's beside the point. I think it's great that you are welcoming, all addictions, and also really trying to focus on those people whose voices aren't being heard. Now that would include atheists and agnostics and free thinkers, but that could also include gay, lesbian, transgender.
Yes, I think it's important because I know for me personally, when I heard other people share, and it was something that I hadn't shared when I was early in recovery, that's what started to allow me to actually share what was going on in my head. And that's when I truly began to heal, is when I quit keeping everything bottled up. And so I think it's important to hear that, even, and it's might not be what everybody needs to hear,
right?
But nothing is.
Right.
I remember there was a lady who she traveled back and forth through Fayetteville. She had a son that lived here. I'm not sure if he still lives here, but she was the first person I ever heard share in a meeting getting sober without God. And I don't remember, within my first year, I believe. And when she moved away, I was so sad because, there she sat and she just shared that she got sober without God. And I had never even considered that was possible.
Yeah.
Because here where I live, I don't know about other places. Nobody ever talked about that. Nobody ever said that. Now, my sponsor didn't tell me my sponsor, she wasn't like, you have to believe in God.
Right.
She just sort of led me through the steps. She was just my guide. And
right.
She was amazing. She was amazing. She never told me you have to do this or that or whatever.
She does sound great.
But this woman who has moved away and needs to move back, she was the first person I ever heard share that. And it was important for me to hear.
Yeah.
Not important for everyone, but it really helped me. It helped me get better. So,
I know. I was going to meetings on a very regular basis for 25 years in Kansas City and never once heard anybody say that they were an atheist, until finally many, many, many years later. And my friend Jim is an open atheist, and he was the only one I knew in AA who was. And so he and I started our group together, the We Agnostics group here. And but yeah, all that time I never knew. I didn't even know they had these agnostic, secular AA meetings going on, which they've had for a long time. I knew nothing about it, And around the time that you were getting sober, I think you said it was around 2012, right?
Yeah.
That was about the time I was kind of realizing I was an atheist, and I was searching for just what you're saying. I was looking for like atheists in AA and stuff like that, and I really was having a hard time finding anything. There really wasn't a lot out there. Yeah, that's very, very true. But I'm also thinking, there's other underrepresented communities too in recovery. And I know maybe not so much with AA and other 12-step programs, but the African American community is very underrepresented in AA. And I don't know how many stories are out there from that community. Native Americans would be another one. Just you can just go on, but yeah,
it is hard to find, because when I first started looking, initially I was just looking for atheist or agnostic speakers, just out of curiosity, and I had found one speaker. He was Irish and he spoke at a convention in London, and he was an atheist. And I just and I forget his name. I'll have to find it. It was on YouTube, but I found him, and I was like, whoa. They have speakers like this, and I found some on other sites, but they're only like 15, 20-minute shares. They're very short.
Yep.
So I started looking, are there any other ones? And then out of curiosity, I started looking, can I find Asian American, African American, gay lesbian stories? And you can't, or I can't, maybe.
No.
And so the internet is amazing, though. It is, I was actually talking to somebody today about how I feel more connected to recovery through the internet than I do through the community here.
Yeah, because, I know you mean. Yeah.
You can find people to talk to, and like with your site and stuff, it's, I just found it, but it's great. And I'm like telling everybody that's in my group, people like, you got to go here.
No, it's very true. I was never, I don't really actually get into the online meetings so much, but I do all this other stuff online, like, the podcast, the website, Facebook. And I'm always connected with other people in recovery through the internet online. And I have good friends from all over the world. And, we'll have Skype conversations from time to time or whatever. And it's just really nice. And I feel like I've got plenty to do to keep me occupied. And I could probably do this and feel just like as involved in the program as I would be going to meetings every day. So, yeah, it's kind of nice to have that and to have input from outside my local community. We were talking about being in bubbles, but for a long, long time, my AA world was pretty small. It was just my little group that I went to for all those years. It was a men's group even in Kansas City. And so, my whole experience was confined to these men, mostly white, sharing, about God and the big book in these meetings. And that was all I knew, and so I kind of woke up it was kind of a good thing for me when I realized I was an atheist, because I started thinking, outside of that bubble that I'd been in for all that time. And it really, catapulted me into a whole new, respect for the program and appreciation for it. And knowing that, like a friend of mine says, we can create our own fellowship if the one that we are in doesn't suit us.
Yeah, I think the fellowship is definitely important. For me, it was important to have people that I could, there's something about talking to somebody else and you don't have to explain yourself. They just get it. They're like, yeah, I get it. I've been there. It's very powerful, for me anyway.
Well, I'm glad you started your group in Fayetteville. That's good. I know that there are some other groups in North Carolina also.
We based ours off of a group in Raleigh, actually. When we started the group, there were 2 in Raleigh, and I went to one, and then I didn't go to the one that we based ours off of right away, but I did get the phone number for the founder and spoke with her, and she was incredibly helpful in helping us get started. And so we were like, we're going to take your name too.
Good.
We'll just be like your spinoff.
And then there's another group in Asheville. Then they meet they meet like 5 days a week, I think.
Oh, that'd be great. We tried to do that, but it was hard to find a venue.
Yeah.
that would let us meet.
Yeah. So, where did you finally find a place to meet?
When we first started, we were meeting at the Quaker House here in Fayetteville. They were the only place. And then we just this year moved to a treatment center. They're called the Carolina Treatment Center.
Oh.
And they allow us to meet, and it's an open meeting, so they.
Oh, nice. So do you get people that are in treatment that go to the meeting?
We do get some people from the treatment center. We've just sort of started back up today. I'm not sure how the meeting went because of the hurricane and stuff, but but they've been really supportive there. They and we're excited. Good. We did ask if we could meet more, but it's inconvenient for them, and so we're a small group. We are a small group, but we still have some good meetings.
Well, that's great. Okay, well, I look forward to watching your progress as you start getting submissions, and if there's anything that I can do here to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. I love audio, and I love listening to speakers, and trying to preserve as much anything I can find. I just really am into it, so I'm really excited about your project and really wish you the best with it, and will do anything I can to help you if you need any help at all.
I really appreciate it. You're already helping so much.
Good.
Like I said, when I started it, I was just like, well, this is what's going to happen. And then you agreed to do this and help. And I was like, wow, this might actually happen.
So people out there, if you'd like to get in touch with Cindy, you can email her at speakerproject01@gmail.com. And the Voices in Recovery website is voicesinrecovery.weebly.com. And you can find all the information about that there. And we posted a little news article about it on AA Beyond Belief that has links to the website and to Cindy's email address. So that's how you can get in touch with them. Cindy, anything else that you need to that we left out?
No, not that I can think of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, that concludes another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. Again, you can visit Cindy's website, Voices in Recovery, at voicesinrecovery.weebly.com and contact Cindy at her email address, speakerproject01@gmail.com.